Hello, chess family. It's me, National Master Jesse James. It's time for another installment for How to Play the Accelerated Dragon. Here we're going to go over a nice way to win a pawn in the opening, a nice little opening trap, and then we see a nice conversion with that endgame. Here we go. We start off with e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, c takes, knight takes, g6, accelerated dragon, knight c3, bishop g7, attacking the knight, bishop e3, defending, knight f6, attacking, and f3 gets played here. Remember, you cannot play the Yugoslav attack against the accelerated dragon. Castles happens here, and here, bishop c4. Now this is usually a good move here because it's going to stop the pawn move to d5 here, which is what we're trying to get in the accelerated dragon. With that being said, we have this very special and strong move to be played here. What do you play here as black? Well, if you know it, then you're using it already. If you don't, check out this move. We actually play queen to b6 exclam. A beautiful move here. And, well, as we'll see in the Fischer game, Fischer plays the correct move, which is bishop to b3. And after a series of moves, it becomes about an equal game here. Black can be a little bit better in these games, but for the most part, it's almost going to be a draw. In that game, Fischer actually draws the game. It's quite fast. With that being said, bishop to b3 was not played here. White just kept on going along with their merry business. They played queen d2 thinking, you know what, you can't grab this pawn on b2 because it's just going to be bad. And, well, queen takes b2 is a bit interesting here. Well, what happens after this? There's a few moves here for white, but rook b1 can get played. Queen goes to a3. And now, well, knight c to b5. And things are getting a little bit weird here. I would say that white definitely has some compensation here. Unless you want to memorize this and you know your opponent's going to play this, I don't recommend this for anybody. I mean, gosh, queen a6 here is the move that the computer is recommending, and yeah, I don't think I'd want to go into this willingly. With that being said, there's a far easier line here after queen to d2 to win material. Black to move. Feel free to push pause. Here's the move here. Your knight is hanging. What do you play here? Here we play knight takes e4 exclam. A beautiful move here, getting a nice tempo, attacking the queen, and the whole idea is to open up the bishop to attack on d4 here. With this being said, I do want to mention, again, those lines. There's no good way to move anywhere with this knight to defend because the bishop is undefended. And if you try to go something like knight f5, you simply just take on b2 with the knight hanging and this knight hanging. Black is just winning. So back to the game. After queen d2, knight takes on e4. The same kind of things are happening here. And, well, because now we have a threat on the queen here, again, it just won't work. Here he just goes ahead and plays the main line. Pawn takes on e4. And how do we take on d4? Should we take with the knight? Should we take with the bishop? Of course, we're going to be taking with the bishop here because knight takes on d4 simply puts us into a pin. And after castle's queenside, well, it is white who now has a small advantage. All right, with that being said, here we're going to take the correct way and take with bishop takes d4. Well, bishop takes d4, queen takes d4, just going into a good endgame. Queen takes, knight takes, castle's queenside makes sense here. And nothing special here. Let's just go ahead and bring our knight back to c6. And knight to d5 exclam gets played. Now, this is a very nice tricky move because, well, if black does not play correctly, he can definitely make weaknesses in his position. For instance, what would you play here in this position? A lot of people here, I definitely feel would not play the best move here. Let's see, what are some ideas here that you would play? Maybe something like, I don't know, rook to b8 here? Not such a bad move here. After bishop b5, you have to be careful. You can evict this knight as well. Knight f6 check can get played here. And, well, you just be winning a pawn. After king g7, knight takes on d7 here. Definitely not the best way to play here. And this is one of the problems that you have in a lot of these variations, especially if you just try to play e6 right away. Again, the same idea happens. Knight f6 check, and you got this weak square right here to deal with also. With that being said, after knight d5, black plays the best move here. King to g7. This allows you to look at ideas about playing e6 in the future. Not that we really want to play it right now, but at least it's nice to be played, and also prevents any kind of knight takes e7 checks that can happen in the game. Well, white continued strongly here with bishop to b5, and here the threat is the simple bishop takes c6. And you can play the simple rook e8 move here. Why? Because you simply just get forked with knight c7. So how do you defend the e7 pawn here? Well, black went ahead and played this move of rook to d8. An interesting move here. With that being said, computer just says, let's just play rook b8 in this position. Very, very interesting way to play. And rook d8 got played, and rook over to f1 got played. Is there a reason why we can't simply take on c6 and then grab the pawn? Of course there is. If you try to take on c6 here, we'll just take back with the b pawn, and then after knight takes on e7, well, where can this knight move to? Bishop b7 gets played, and now the knight is trapped here. Yeah, here computer just goes something like pawn to g4, but we're just going to be playing the king either to f6 or to f8, and we'll be winning this knight. So the knight was actually indirectly, the pawn was actually indirectly defended by using tactics. So rook d8 is definitely a nice way to defend. White plays rook h to f1 here, trying to put pressure on the f7 pawn. I mean, this is the best place I guess you could put this rook on the open file. And now black simply starts pushing white back nice and easy. Here we go. Pawn d6 lets the bishop out. Knight c7, looking for some kind of way to make things crazy here, but to no avail. Here, a simple move of rook b8 could have got played, but I like the way that black plays it, nice and spicy, developing with the threat bishop to g4. Okay, so you can take on a8, and in fact that's actually what happens here, but maybe something as simple as moving the rook over would have been best. Knight takes on a8 got played, bishop takes, knight back, and bishop back. Here again, the knight's just kind of marooned out here, and the more trades, the better, as black is simply up a pawn. Remember, whenever you're in your chess games and you're playing and winning endgames, you want to trade pieces, not pawns. Why? Well, pieces are going to make the game easier because when you make trades, the game becomes less complicated. We don't trade pawns because each pawn can be a potential queen. And if you trade too many, well, you can actually get a draw there because you won't have any checkmating material at the end. You can't get a pawn across the board. All right, knight went back to d5, rook to c8 here, and this is interesting. Again, we have to look at tactics. Why can't we simply take and take? Same kind of ideas here. Here, white just went ahead and played king d2. If you do try to take on c6, b takes on c6, knight takes on e7, and again, we just play rook c7 here, and the knight is trapped. All right, back to the game. Here, white plays the very smooth king to d2, and black plays bishop e6. Again, looking to make trades here. And, well, I definitely like this knight versus bishop endgame. Bishop takes on c6. Pawn takes on c6. Knight to f4. Again, we can't take on e7 as it's getting trapped. And, well, what's the best thing to do in this game? We're going to go ahead and put pressure on the queen side. That's where we're going to be having our open file. And here we're going to be making a passed pawn in the center here. How do I know that? Very simple. You simply count the pawns around here, and you'll see that it's 1, 2, well, actually, we could just do it this way. Yeah, this is probably best to do it this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 versus 1, 2, 3, meaning we'll have 2 passed pawns over here on the king side / center. Rather, if we tried to go queen side, well, that'd be really difficult as we'd have to win a pawn just to make an even trade here. We'd have to win another pawn just to make that extra passed pawn there. So knight f4 got played, and black plays rook b8, not fearing going into this rook and pawn endgame. And, well, I guess white believed him. White went ahead and played pawn to b3. Bishop d7. Now we're going to see that these pawns are going to start being pushed up forward. Again, this is where your pawn majority is, so this is where we should be pushing. Pawn c4 got played, and, well, black to move. What do you play here? All right, somebody I heard said play pawn e5. I definitely like this move. This is part of our plan of playing e5 and pushing up f5 and getting that pawn majority. Here, f5 exclam got played right away, though. All right, well, at this point, they pretty much are forced to take. If they don't take, then we will take. And either way, we'll be getting our passed pawn. With that being said, e takes. Should we play here g takes on f5, or should we take with our bishop? Hopefully this is an easy move for you. Of course, let's get our pawns all together in the center over here. G takes f5 is the best move to play. And, well, e5 is coming, so we're going to be harassing this knight. Pawn g3, trying to stabilize it. Let's kick it away. e5 gets played, knight to d3, and you can really feel how these pawns are just being pushed forward here. And, well, we want to play d5 now, but, well, we can't because knight takes e5. So simple chess here. We play king to f6. Now d5 is coming, and you can see how these pawns are just getting stronger and stronger with each move. Rook e1 got played again, saying, hey, you can't play this d5 move, or I'll simply take on e5 again, as now I have a rook up there too. Here, another very nice move for black. Pawn c5. What does this do? Well, we're going to be able to use our bishop, and we're actually taking away squares from this knight. This knight actually really doesn't have any good outpost. I mean, gosh, it would love to get the d5 there. It would take quite a few moves here. Oof, I don't even know how. Let's see, how would you get there? 1, 2, 3, and 4 moves, and black can simply play bishop e6 and trade off in 1. So even if you can get to this outpost, it's not any good, as the bishop is controlling this light square. All right, white's just trying to waste moves here. Rook to d1. Pawn to a5, another very good move. We're going to be attacking this pawn over here on b3, trying to make a backwards pawn after something like pawn a4. This also stops white from trying to build up with something like b4 here, as this is being taken over already. a5, white played king to c3, bishop to e6, knight to e1, and king to e7. Black is doing a very good job here and taking their time, most likely looking to maybe reroute the king over to c6 over here. Alright, knight d3 got played. And now another very nice move here, pawn to h5. The two weaknesses principle at work. Here we can play pawn to a4 here, but white's actually over here and can stop this weakness of the b3 pawn. So what does black play? Well, we can use this one pawn to create two weak pawns, right? Isolated pawns are always easier to attack. Mind you, if you were trying to push forward over here in the center, it's a little too soon here as e4. Well, knight f4 gives up this great outpost, and, well, this is particularly bad for us because the knight is now on a dark square, so the bishop cannot harass it. So, simple chess, we're trying to move forward as slowly as possible and push back our opponent. We only push forward once all our pieces are at its maximum or on their best squares. In endgames, we take our time. Here, h5 is definitely with the idea of playing pawn to h4. If we can get rid of this pawn, well, what's better than one pass pawn, which is the e pawn? Two pass pawns, so we can then push the e pawn and the f pawn. Alright, here we go. Rook d2 got played. What do you play? Pawn to h4. G takes h4. Terrible move. That was once one bad pawn. Now there's two. And now let's clean this up. Rook to h8. Rook to g2. Looking to try and get access over here. Rook takes on h4 and knight to f2. Of course, if you try going over here, this h pawn will fall. And, well, two passed pawns coming at you is not going to be easy to stop. It's pretty much impossible. Alright, king goes to f6, getting ready to escort these pawns. Pawn to h3, rook to d4, rook to g3, pawn to f4. Here come the pawns, and this rook is very well placed here. It looks a little weird here, but the idea was to control the e4 square. f4 was always easy to get to. e4 is what we needed help with as the knight was defending. Alright, well, rook f3 got played, and, well, black just plays king g5, and white resigns. And here you can definitely see that this is easily winning for black here, as the king can keep making progress going to h4, trying to win the h3 pawn, and, well, where can this rook move to? Nowhere really good, and gosh, I guess if you want to trade off, again, this is just going to make things easier on black here. With no good moves to find, white went ahead and resigned. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this one. Remember, whenever you're playing these accelerated dragons, remember there's really nice ideas about knight takes e4, or moving the knight so you open up the bishop to attack on the dark squares. And then most games are usually won with an endgame, and black did a very fine job in this one showing us. We'll see you in the next one.